arrived in this place 1 year ago today by order of the An-Xileel command, and still I don't understand why. In the early days of the movement, it was about taking back control of our lands and culture from a weakened Imperial and Thalmor war machine. This was a noble cause. The movement then turned to the punishment of those who had subjugated the Sax-hleel, culminating in the decimation of Morrowind. Though savage, this conflict was also justified, as it avenged the memories of so many who had been victims of slavery at the hands of the Dunmer. But when the eyes of the An-Xileel turned to conquest, that was when things went wrong. Our An-Xileel forbearers transformed from revolutionaries and freedom fighters into conquerors. Even worse, with the summoning of Umbriel, the fighters of old were twisted into heartless and depraved leaders of a vast undead army, the likes of which Tamriel has never seen before. This is the shameful, shameful legacy of the An-Xileel, but things are different now. Our purpose now is the protection of Black Marsh and the culture of its people. Our guiding principle is one of peace, and we are ever mindful of our sordid past, using it as a moral compass that drives us now. These are the things our leaders espouse, and I must have faith in their leadership. And yet, my confidence in the mission wavers as I find myself in Skyrim. I was ordered here a year ago and told to wait for my orders, and still I wait. If the fight is at home, why am I needed here? What would the dealings of this faraway northern waste have to do with the struggle in Black Marsh? Each day I ask myself this question, and then plod forward with my daily tasks. I walk the surrounding countryside, unlocking the secrets of this land, all the while questioning my situation and the intentions of An-Xileel leadership. All of these questions, and yet there's no one to ask. My station is low in this organization, and my opinions are of little concern to anyone. I am a soldier with my orders, but what am I to make of this? Even as my frustration builds, I am resigned to my situation. I must have faith. Today, I seek something very specific: spider venom. In the wastes to the south, there is a brood cave that yields massive quantities of venom, which I hope to distill. I have been there before. This is not the first time I've milked this place of its poisons. This is also a very unique ecosystem, and it supports the growth of some very rare herbs, such as jazzbay. So, as always, I will creep into the dangerous places so few are willing to go, and return with the prizes that have made me indispensable to the apothecaries all over Skyrim. I will find what I seek, and the experimentation will continue. I can only hope that one day my singular set of skills will help the An-Xileel cause. Welcome, dear viewers, to Couch Warrior TV on YouTube. I am the Couch Warrior, and you are watching The Black Prince, a Couch Warrior Story Experience, and this is episode 1. I am so glad that you're here. I am so glad to be back making stories for you. Obviously, this is the first episode, so there are a few things that we need to sort out, which we will do throughout the course of this and the following episodes. There are a lot of things for us to talk about, but one of the things that I am going to let you know right up front is that most aspects of the story and where it's going will be revealed through gameplay and through, written pieces and cutscenes. So when I'm in commentary mode, I'm going to try to refrain from giving away any secrets about the actual plot line of the story, because that would be the equivalent of exposition, and I certainly don't want to do that. That's abhorrent. So we're not going to do that. So let's start off. Let's just get going, shall we? So this is Okan Bittertree. Okan Bittertree, obviously, he is an Argonian, and I have customized him quite extensively. We're going to be talking about that here shortly. But Okan has some work to do. So if you've watched the prologue, presumably at this point you have, then you understand that Okan is, he's a man with a mission. And unfortunately, he's really itching to perform that mission, but he doesn't exactly know what that mission is yet. He's waiting for word on what that is as well. But right now, he's basically marking time in Windhelm, working as kind of a freelance alchemist. He goes out and he gathers ingredients and he makes potions. He sells the ingredients, he sells the potions, and he also does his own research. Okay? So if we take a look at how Okan is put together, you'll see he's starting out at level 12. We are on our way to level 13. The reason that I did that is I made some investments in alchemy up front as a way to sort of illustrate the fact that he is an alchemist by trade. All right? Now, the only other thing that I invested perks in was his sneak skill. And the reason I did this is because he's become quite adept at sneaking in and out of dangerous places in order to get his hands on the ingredients that he needs to make the potions that are most profitable. And this is kind of his edge in the market, if you will, his willingness to go into dangerous places to retrieve those items that others are not willing to go and get. And so he makes potions and he charges a premium for them, and that's how he makes his living. All right, so right now we're going to gear up and we're going to go out and we're going to get some stuff. This essentially is his gear that he uses when he's kind of out on the road. So we've got silencers, boots, gloves, hood, and vestments. You'll notice these are all considered light armor. I don't know that we'll be investing in light armor perks in the future or not, but we'll definitely be gaining levels in light armor. Okay, and we've also got a dark box pouch and a satchel. These are things that he uses to house ingredients and potions. And then I've added this bag as an alternative to a backpack, which I really like. It's kind of a bedroll slash backpack all in one. Let's take a look at weapons. He is a crossbow guy. Okay. And let's go ahead and lay this stuff out. So we've got a silver dagger. We've got an Imperial crossbow and some Imperial crossbow bolts. Okay. And there is currently no mod list. A mod list will be provided eventually what you're going to want to do is, you know, keep watching the episodes. I'll make an announcement when the mod list is available, and then it will appear in the description for each video that I create. Okay. Currently, there is not a mod list because the mod list has not been finalized. And when I produce a mod list, it's labor intensive, and I would like to do it just once. Okay. Not multiple times. Okay. So let's take a look at some of the gear here. So we've got this dagger. This is called a Silver Elven Dagger. Comes from a mod of the same name. I like it because it's got kind of lots of sort of fancy embossing and scroll work on the blade. And there's two reasons why I like that. Because one, it looks good. It looks like an elegant, interesting weapon that's fairly utilitarian. But also, all those crevices, all that scroll work, all the embossing and so forth on the blade will actually hold substances better than just a smooth blade. So the idea is we're looking for a blade intentionally that will hold poison and so forth. So that is the blade of choice. And also the crossbow, just a great delivery vehicle for poison. So that's what we're going with. Something a little different. All right. So as Okan indicated in the intro of this video, he is going out this evening with the specific purpose of gathering up some spider venom. And then he's going to take that spider venom and he's planning to distill it into a more powerful poison. Okay? But he's got to go out and harvest this stuff. So that is going to take us to a place called Cronevanger Cave. Now, I'm sure most of you are probably familiar with Cronevanger Cave and where it's located. We're going to kind of be going directly south past Kynes Grove and into that barren volcanic wasteland. If we follow the river, we'll run right into it. But that's where we're headed. That is the plan. So let's talk a little bit about Okan, and I'm going to be really focusing in the next few episodes on who he is as a person, personality-wise. I'm going to try to be producing information about his background and so forth in a much more interesting way. I would like to fold that information and reveal it in pieces throughout the story, as opposed to kind of talking about that during commentary. And I elected with this series to do something that was kind of a mixture of things. So as in the Twist series, where everything is voiced in character all the time, we are going to have partial character voice here. There may be some inner monologues going on. Certainly we're going to use Okan's voice when we're engaged in dialogue with NPCs and stuff. But there is also going to be commentary involved in this series, similar to what you would have experienced if you watched The Passage, for example. And both of those series I love. Some of them have different strengths and weaknesses. And what I thought would be fun is to kind of combine them. So we're going to get some story directly from Okan, but then we're also going to have the added advantage of just kind of discussing things informally in commentary when we talk about things like character background and role play and mods and all that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that what we'll produce here is something that'll be kind of the best of both worlds. That is my objective anyway. Now, he is an alchemist, so we're going to be gathering up a few things along the way here. So let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so the reason that he's kind of dressed all in black is that he tends to go out and do his harvesting at night. That's when the roads are clear. That's when a lot of creatures may be asleep, and he can either avoid them or get the jump on them. Makes it a little bit easier for him to conceal himself when he's going in and out of dangerous places. Stuff like that. So it really has nothing to do with him sort of being an assassin. It has to do with this being sort of the best possible uniform for the way that he's kind of conducting his work. And I think what we're going to do, and what is somewhat hard to do sometimes, is we're going to go with kind of a travel and engagement strategy that is focused on role play and focused on what he is good at, right? So, you know, especially at this level, we're not going to see many instances where he's, you know, taking on a group of bandits and killing everyone in the camp, that kind of thing. I'm trying to be a bit more disciplined here about how he handles those things. If he needs to engage, then he's going to engage in a way that will allow him to escape with his skin. And the ideal situation for Okan is that he would get in, get what he needs, and get out without anyone knowing he was ever there. Now, of course, that is going to change. The strategy will change based on how the story changes, based on his objectives, based on personality traits and what's going on, how he's transforming as a character, all those kinds of things. Those are kind of the hallmarks of a Couch Warrior TV Let's Play kind of experience. So that's how we're going to play it out. So my goal is to really just kind of be disciplined about that and make sure I'm paying attention to those details. Now, some of you may be saying, oh my God, Couch Warrior, you're playing an Argonian. You swore up and down for years that you'd never play a character with a tail. Well, that ship has sailed. I mean, let's face it. We are stuck with Skyrim for a while here. It's going to be Skyrim until, you know, something new comes out. It's going to be a while. So let's explore the possibilities here. And when I considered what type of character to play, I thought, let's go Argonian. I've really never explored an Argonian character. I've had some exposure to a Khajiit, but not an Argonian. So let's do it. And if we're going to do it, let's do it right. So you'll notice that he is highly customized. I'm using a mod called Unique Character, and then I have customized the textures that cover his skin. I've intentionally given him a much darker look. Now, the way that it works is that there is a tint that lays down over the top of the textures that gives the Argonian its look. So kind of the way that works is you've got a texture in the background in a tint over the top that will give your Argonian a subtle shade of green or red or gray or whatever it is. So what I did is I created a darkened texture and then created the character in such a way that I've got a dark gray overlay, and those two things together give me black. Now he's also got some emblems on his scales, and those aren't just random. There's a reason for those, and they mean specific things which will be revealed through the story. All right, let's do this. Okay. Now, Okan is not just an alchemist. He's a person who pays attention to the world around him, especially when it comes to the animals, the flora, the fauna, and the ecosystems that he's working inside of. And so, because of that, what he wants to do is he wants to harvest as much poison as he can, but he doesn't want to kill the cash cow. And what that means is he doesn't want to kill the brood mother. However, he's going to kill all of her brood, and harvest the poison from them. Now that does a couple of different things. It means that this is a place he can return to in the future to continue to get poison and continue to make money. But in his mind, it also means that he's keeping a very dangerous predator who seems to be incredibly fertile from producing too many young that could be a threat to the towns around here. There are many, many, many spiders in here. So to him, this is about getting poison, but it's also about population control. And he views Cronevanger Cave as a place that he can use almost like a breeding ground, right? So we're going through this in reverse order. We're going straight to the brood lair. All right. Let's see if I could get some bolts back. All right, I'm going to switch to my hunting knife, and hopefully that is going to help me extract some venom without getting myself hurt. We'll see. Got it. Okay, now in here, gotta be very careful because the brood mother is in that hole right there. We are ignoring Meridia in this playthrough. Demons. Okay, so now the trick is we gotta harvest poison from these guys without waking her up. I'm gonna pull back. Okay, when you do it this way, it's actually quite creepy. Because she's up in there. And we just killed her young without her realizing it. So all right. Success. So I consider Okan to be sort of a steward of the environment. And so he's not, completely decimating the population here, but he's certainly keeping the population under control because there is a small army of spiders inside this cave that, if they were allowed to grow to full size, would be a massive threat. And I think, from a roleplay perspective, I feel like that's pretty apparent also, just due to the fact that the spiders have somehow managed to snare a mammoth, which is lying dead outside the cavern, so. Okay, here they come. we go. Oh, one miss. All right. That is a lot of spiders, and this is just the first chamber. All right. So we're going to look for bolts, and we're going to extract venom. As we do this, let's talk a little bit about who Okan is, just in terms of personality. I like to define this. Those of you who follow my Let's Plays and the podcast know that I like to define this in terms of the circles of character conflict. It's a very helpful model to help visualize the personality traits of a character by taking a look at how they relate to themselves, how they relate to their friends and family, and finally, how they relate to society. Ugh, yep. We missed one. Careless. All right, let's try this one. So when I think of who Okan is, how he relates to himself. Yeah. Oh, poisoned again. There are 3 keys to his personality. And what we're talking about here is we're talking about the things that perhaps tend to drive his personality in a negative way. All right, got poisoned twice. So number 1 is that he suffers from some deep-seated self-doubt. Doubt about whether or not he's capable. Doubt about why he is here in the world. Doubt about what his place in the world is. Those kinds of things. He's also a person who actually is a compassionate person. He has compassion for other people and their plight and their situation. But there's something in him that he's conflicted about when it comes to that compassion. He sees it as a weakness. He sees himself as being soft-hearted and views his compassion itself as something that makes him weak and potentially not a good soldier in the An-Xileel cause. So that causes him some problems, all right? And then as a result of his relationship to his soft-hearted self, he tends to turn away from those people who are in trouble, those people who he could conceivably help. So imagine a situation where you've got a soft heart, you see things going on around you that are terrible, people suffering, and your reaction to that is to walk away from them because there's something inside you that tells you that that compassion is a weakness. Well, what that ends up producing is a lot of guilt. Because he really is a person with a lot of capacity for good and a lot of capability, right? But he's constantly turning away from those people that he could help because he views that compassionate part of his personality as a weakness. Okay? So that culminates in guilt. So guilt is the hallmark of his inner struggle, I guess. You know, the one thing that I really do love about the crossbow is that there is far less of the shenanigans that you see with a bow. With arrows bouncing off the rocks and stuff like that. That's super frustrating. And you get it with a bow all the time where you're trying to shoot at a downward angle like this and your arrows are bouncing off the terrain. I seem to experience that a lot less with the crossbow. Like here, this shot right here, I could never make that shot with a bow. The arrow would just bounce off the rock in front of me and that would be it. So, kudos to the crossbow. There are some other things that the crossbow does that can be a pain in the ass. It's got its own problems. But that's not one of them, at least. Okay, I think we got them all. Now look at all of these spiders in here. Cronevanger Cave is absolutely stuffed to the gills with spiders. And imagine that all these little spiders were allowed to grow up and become gigantic. That would be a huge problem for the surrounding community, I would think. And that's kind of how Okan views this. Nah. Now this is interesting. We got a chest down here in a chamber chock full of spiders. At the bottom of a cave system chock full of more spiders. So we're going to note that chest because Okan is pretty familiar with this cave. Like I said, he's been in it before. We heard that in the opening piece. He's been in here before, and he comes back from time to time to thin out the population and harvest ingredients. So maybe it's possible that that chest could be used as a hiding place for things that we want to keep super, super secret and well guarded. So we're going to keep that in the back of our mind. Okay, so how does this idea, this problem, that Okan has with self-doubt and compassion, how does that impact him as far as interpersonal relationships go? Friends, family, acquaintances, co-workers, whatever it is. Well, basically what that means is he is going to be seen by others as a person who's constantly turning away from those in need. Or being that guy who's saying, you know, I'm sorry that you're having so many problems with that, but I don't want to get involved in your problems. Right? So I think what that does is it manifests itself in people around him. No bite. Feeling like he's aloof and that he's selfish. All right? And I think among Argonians, the fact that he doesn't live in the assemblage, he doesn't work on the docks anymore. If you go back and listen to the prologue, one of the things that he expresses is how he had to stop working on the docks because he couldn't stand to look in the eyes of other Argonians who weren't connected to the Hist. There was something about that really bothered him. All right, this is where the brood chamber is, so we're not going to break that web. We're going to leave her alone. And so, you know, imagine this guy who's coming off as kind of aloof, kind of self-centered, and then he moves out of the assemblage, he buys his own house, and now he's making lots of money creating potions and selling ingredients to Nords who are not being very kind to the Argonians that live in their community. I think it's a very strong possibility that we could see a situation where amongst the Argonian population, he may be even viewed as kind of a traitor to his own kin. Now, certainly not rising to the level that they would do anything about it, but it seems like the kind of thing where they would probably talk behind his back. They'd probably talk shit about him when he wasn't there. Again. Okay, now, I can still harvest ingredients, so let's do that. I'm going to take the spider meat. So that's the interpersonal circle, and all of that culminates in anger for him. So his inner conflict culminates in guilt, but his inner conflict is what causes the problems with the people who are close to him. And the idea that they're talking behind his back, or they think of him as a traitor to his own kind, or, you know, things like that, that turns into anger for him. So that second circle manifests itself in anger. So how does he relate to society? Well, I thought about this one quite a bit. And, you know, I'm thinking he's living independently. He's accumulating wealth. He's not wealthy, but he's definitely, you know, living a middle-class life. Okay? He lives on just the outer edges of the gray quarter, you know? And he's spending his days, you know, interacting with people who are well off, doing business deals with them and stuff like that. So, in general, society, the other races look at him as a guy who's got his shit together. He's, you know, and that makes him, you know, a respectable member of the community, at least. Someone who's self-sufficient and has money and has a little bit of status because of that. He's seen as somebody who is successful because he is running his own business and he's supporting himself and making enough money that he can do things that other people just can't, especially other Argonians or even Dunmer who are living in the Grey Quarter slaving away, right? I'm taking a lot of spider meat because it's absolutely disgusting, and I have a feeling that Okan, one of his traits is he's going to be, you know, not averse at all to eating things that other people would find completely disgusting. Okay, so he's got wealth, he's got success, but also within society, he is the kind of person, because of the fact that he is an Argonian, and because of the fact that he's proven that he can make money and he's not working down in the docks, he's not living in the assemblage, which is basically, you know, in the minds of the Nords who live there, the ghetto. He is invited to come to various functions around town, and they are not. Now, of course, that helps to feed the idea among his own kind that he's a traitor. But what it also does to Okan is that it makes him feel like he's a token Argonian. He's the Argonian they invite to the party because he looks good in nice clothes, and because they can count on him to be respectful, and because they can put their arm around him and they can chuckle and say, "Here's my friend the Argonian." That makes him the token Argonian, which to him is humiliating. So the aspects of his personality that pertain to society culminate in humiliation. So if we take a look at all three of those things together, we've got guilt, we've got anger, and we've got humiliation, and we know where all of that stuff comes from. So we've got a guy here who's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder, but deep inside he's got a compassionate core which constantly has him in conflict with the world around him, because the world around him is a nasty place. What is this? Let's investigate. lives here? There's a body. This is obviously a trap.
Yeah.
Trap that we could not help but trigger. All right, let's take a look at our powers. One of the things we've got here are instincts. We're going to make good use of that. We've also got fire oil, which is part of the alchemy tree. Of course, we are using the Ordinator perk overhaul. We are also using Andromeda standing stones, and I've taken the thief stone. Okay, I'm doling out some mod information for you here, so maybe note that if it's important to you for whatever reason. Okay, we're using a whole host of mods produced by An-Xileel. Load a ranged weapon. This is obviously ritualistic. Is occupied. We'll see if we can get a better look. Who are they? They are feasting on flesh. These are vampires. Okay, one thing Okan is he's pretty stealthy for his level. So let's use that. Whipped up here. Now the elemental oil, basically what that does is that allows Okan to lay down a layer of oil almost equivalent to napalm and then set it off. Now that layer is only going to last for 20 seconds, so we have to take action on it pretty quickly. And the only way to set it off is either with a ranged weapon or with some kind of ranged spell. More. That's it. 2. But there are 3 beds. Hold up. We'll use instincts here. See if we can spot anyone else. Doesn't look like it.
Feed again today.
Ah. It's hidden in the dark there.
Now your blood is mine.
Whew. 2 to the chest. That was good. She didn't get a shot off at us with her attack, her magical attack there, which would have put us in danger of becoming a vampire ourselves. That would have been awful. Interesting boots. Perhaps I'll take those. And this war pick. Savage looking. All right. Dead also. Helmets and boots. Worth good money and light. We shall take those as well. What were they doing in here? More dangerous than the spiders. To think they've been here every time I've come in for poisons. And I never knew it. Shot to the neck. We'll take what we can. So Okan is a fella who doesn't really have any particular qualms about things like blood, certain foods and where they come from. To him, meat is meat. Some things he will cook. He'll cook things like, you know, red meat, goats, cows, things like that. But stuff like fish, he prefers that raw. Nice. He does drink, but not a lot. So, pretty typical guy. When I consider like an Argonian, it just seemed to me like Argonians might like sushi. So I'm going with that. But I'm telling you these things, right? Because we're kind of laying out who he is as a person. We're going to learn some things, some quirks about him. There are going to be some game mechanics that we introduce with this character as well that will impact play going forward. Particular things he will and will not do, stuff like that. And we'll get into that a bit more as we go. All right, what do we got? Skooma. Now we had another vampire here that we dispatched right outside here. Just double checking. Doesn't appear that any of them had anything magical on them. All right, we've accumulated some wealth along the way that was unexpected. And we have also kind of saved this area from a group of vampires who knows what they would have done here. But over the course of time, it could have made it more difficult for us to come in here and get the things we needed. So we had the jump on them, and we took advantage of that. So No worries there. And look at that. We made it out without springing the trap. Okay. So the brood has been terminated, but the brood mother is still in her chamber doing her thing. So she's going to lay more eggs, and there's going to be more spiders, and we'll come back someday and get some more of that venom that we can distill into yet more poison. And as we go up levels, we'll be able to make ever increasingly deadly poisons with it. So well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so very much for taking in the very first episode of The Black Prince. It has been a joy to get back in and start role-playing again. And I really think this story is going to be a lot of fun. I think what you can expect from this series is something of a nice mix between twist and the passage. And I've pretty much got most of the story laid out already. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And as usual, I want to thank you all for supporting me, whether it is on YouTube or on Patreon. You can find all the information you need about Couch Warrior TV and the Character Crusade podcast by going to charactercrusade.com. Thank you all very much, and I will see you in the next episode.